Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man video. We are playing Grixis Death's Shadow and our opponent is playing Collective Company on this occasion with the Vizier Druid combo. So this is our opening hand. It's pretty good, to be honest. Got a lot of draw, only one land, but one land hand with Serum Visions is pretty keepable, and with double Serum Visions even more so. So got a fairly good chance of hitting a second land. We've got Inquisition here, Snapcaster and the Thought Scour, so lots of draw, Liliana as well. So against Serum Visions, I think Thoughtseize and Polluted Delta are the cards we see. Don't really need Thoughtseize. We've already got two discard spells in hand and a Liliana as well, so just going to keep the Polluted Delta on top and pass the turn to our opponent. There's a Ghost Quarter into a Devoted Druid, which kind of gives away what we're working up against, although it could be Elves, I suppose, at this point. So we're going to Inquisition, and we're going to see Knight of the Reliquary, Duskwatch Recruiter, Aven Mind Sensor and two lands. I think it's probably between Duskwatch Recruiter and a Knight as to which one we take. I don't think Aven Mind Sensor is too concerning. And I think given our current position, really we're in need of a threat, so we basically just don't want anything that's going to kill us too soon. So I'm going to take the Knight. Duskwatch Recruiter could help him put his combo together, but I think I'm more concerned about just trying to stay alive for as long as possible, really. So we Serum Visions, we see Lightning Bolt and an island. We're going to keep the island on top. Quite like to get through a third land here, possibly cast Liliana. There's Aven Mind Sensor, Ghost Quarters. I think I misclicked there. I know there's a land in the top 5 cards, so I should have searched up with the Ghost Quarter. I think it just was a misclick. So we have to play a second land. We haven't got a third just yet, thanks to that misclick, unfortunately. And I'm going to be able to Thoughtseize away the Duskwatch Recruiter here. So our opponent's got a couple of lands in hand, and not a terribly exciting board state. Obviously, has got a threat in the form of Aven Mind Sensor, but nothing terribly concerning. Plays a Gavany Township, which obviously is his draw for the turn, which actually is pretty good here. Can untap the Devoted Druid to get to the mana to activate Gavany Township, and then obviously that resets the Devoted Druid and pumps up his Aven Mind Sensor to be substantially more threatening. Thought Scour into that one went a little bit too fast. Thought Scour into a Street Wraith, which we cycle, and then we get Collahad's Command. I'm going to use that to kill off the Mind Sensor, which obviously takes away our opponent's threat. And given that we know our opponent's 2 cards at lands, I figured we'd just return the Street Wraith back to hand. And that gives us the possibility to draw another card if needs be. And just cracks a fetch. I'm going to cycle, which finds us a Fatal Push. Serum Visions here finds us a fetch land and a Street Wraith and a Snapcaster, neither of which are particularly exciting, and we're probably going to want to look at Thought Scouring. So a Fatal Push the Devoted Druid just to get rid of our opponent's board. And we're going to pass here, as I say, potentially looking at Thought Scouring. There's a Ghost Quarter and a Devoted Druid. Get Thought Scour. Draws it into a second Liliana. Isn't overly exciting. Gonna crack the fetch. Opponent's Ghost Quarter is us. We can search up our basic swamp here. I'm going to get a red source here in case we need it. Draw to Death Shadow, which is obviously very good. And we can have a Liliana here, or keep up Snapcaster Fatal Push. I think I opt for the Snapcaster Fatal Push option. Particularly because if our opponent doesn't do anything, then we can just Fort Scour. Opponent plays a Hierarch, which is fine, really. I'm not overly concerned about it. I did think about Snapcaster Fatal Pushing, but kind of doesn't seem necessary under the circumstances. And I think we just Fort Scour. Like I say, killing off his mana dorks is probably worse than killing off something more major. And like I say, unless he puts a combo together, it's not overly worth killing either of those creatures. We have two Anglers in hand. We've got loads of cards in our graveyard, so plenty of opportunity to cast one of those. Obviously we're at 2, and our opponents will be able to activate the Township, so we do need blockers here, so we're going to have to cast Snapcaster here. And I'm going to give Fatal Push flashback. I'm going to block here and rather than just casting the Fatal Push, and see if our opponent wants to activate Township to save his Noble Hierarch. If he doesn't, then obviously that indicates that he's got something in hand he wants to play, which is interesting. So we're going to drop the Liliana here, force the discard, so whatever our opponent's got, he's going to have to play it now. And I believe it is a Chord of Calling. For 2, he ended up searching over Bop, and we have a Fatal Push for that, so going to get rid of that, and we're able to attack for 16, so that finishes the game off nicely. Obviously if our opponent had a Collective Company there, that could have been a very different scenario, and a dangerous one for us, but yeah, obviously playing Liliana pre-combat allows us to see what our opponent had, and make our decisions accordingly. And yeah, we did have another threat to play out, so it's unlikely that we were going to get beaten down, I suppose, but I suppose there was potential there if he'd been in a better position. He might have been able to drop that Bop and pump it up and then attack us to death. But with it, as it was, his life total was too low for that to be a possibility. So let's go on to game 2. Okay, so this hand's okay. We've got some Disruption, Collective Brutality, works as removal. We've got Serum Visions, which can draw us into some threats, so yeah, not the worst hand. It leaves off with a Razorverge Thicket. It doesn't have a play. We get a Watery Grave, and we're going to Thoughtseize here, see what our opponent's working with. So we've got Vizier, Scavenging Ooze, and double Kitchen Finks. We've got double Inquisition next turn potentially, so I kind of contemplated my options here. Scavenging Ooze is kind of annoying and also could grow out of hand potentially. Whereas we've got a Collective Brutality which will kill the Vizier. Vizier is part of a combo, so that obviously is something to factor in, but I actually preferred taking the Scavenging Ooze here, because it's a potentially a large threat for the future. One plays Vizier, which is fine. And we're going to double Inquisition here. It turns out our opponent has a second Vizier, but I definitely prefer taking the Kitchen Finks here, so we can take them too. Prevents us having to deal with them, and it's also a fairly good aggressive threat for our opponent. I mean, he's going to be able to pay a second Vizier and go on Vizier aggro, but I think that's significantly more manageable. So we get to cycle a Street Wraith, which draws us into a Death Shadow, which is pretty good. Serum Visions allows us to see Watery Grave and Serum Visions. Happy to keep the second Serum Visions, I think. And it also draws us into a Terminate, which is very good. So we get to drop a 5/5 here. And Ghost Quarters our Blood Crypt, which isn't the end of the world, given that we've got another fetch. So we can find another red source if needs be. Attack for 5 here. Actually, no, I'm going to cycle the Street Race, so I'm going to attack for 7, put our opponent down to 13. Opponent attacks for 2. I'm just going to Fatal Push the attacking Vizier, just to keep us on a nice life total. Feel fairly safe at 6 life. And we've got plenty of removal in hand. But as I say, Vizier is not the biggest threat, so I'm not overly concerned about it. When plays Aven Mind Sensor, I decided to fetch up our red source here now in response to avoid us having any issues. I take the damage, which maybe isn't necessary, because I think I'm just going to Fatal Push the flyer here. And then we've got Terminate up for the Vizier if we feel it is necessary. Opponent contemplates an attack but then decides against it, which is interesting. I go for Collective Brutality on the Vizier. I mean, we had options there. We could have Liliana'd and forced to discard and then seen what our opponent had. Though obviously, if it was the Collected Company and he drew into a couple of Kitchen Finks or something along those lines, that had just left us dead. This way we've got 2 removal spells, so we can potentially work around that. I mean, I suppose 2 Kitchen Finks would still have killed us, but I kind of prefer this, I suppose. I mean, either way would have probably been similar results. As it turns out, I think our opponent conceded to that, and that was the end of it. But yeah, maybe, I mean, I suppose there's an argument potentially for Liliana, and just forcing the discard there, but it does mean that we can't actually play any other spells that turn. So yeah, this worked out. I guess we would have attacked. There is potential to be ambushed by a Collected Company or something similar, but he would have at least had to block, and then we'd be able to terminate the other creature, presumably. As I say, the only complication potentially being a Kitchen Finks coming off from our opponent. But as it turned out, that was the end. Our opponent concedes and we win through. So yeah, that went pretty well. As I say, we were pretty fortunate that our opponent never actually got a Collected Company, so that worked out pretty well for us. And yeah, the deck gave us a lot of time, basically. The combo pieces kind of don't do a lot on their own. They can attack, but obviously they're a bit slow and dirtly, and that allows us to set up our big Death Shadow and kind of do what we wanted, and with it in terms of our life total, and so yeah, I wasn't really ever under enough pressure from our opponent, which allowed us to kind of play out our game plan without too much hindrance, which led us to the win.